Chapter 22 Unknown.
What?
Osmond demanded.
This whole journey, following in your footsteps to see what happened to Riken, to pay my Cat Malorn to Talon, and you failed?
Osmond threw his hands up in exasperation.
And now it is on me to bring back the person who ruined my life. Gods, you are everything I knew you were.
Tavi didn't even have the decency to look abashed at Osmond's outburst. He looked Osmond in the eyes and said,
I did everything wrong. I came here with ulterior motives and was deemed unworthy.
Tavi explained,
In my continued hubris, I was going to make things right with you. I would return home with your newly reincarnated baby brother. Buy your forgiveness by giving you someone to love and care for the way you never were. Let our relationship heal, and when Riken was old enough, I would send you with him to Talon to fulfill the vision the Fatesinger showed me.
Tavi paused.
I was trying to game fate, and she did not appreciate my folly. So now the choice and the future of the Fatesinger's plan falls to you.
Damn you! Damn you to the 9 hells!
Osmond screamed at Tavi.
Choice? You talk of choice, but what choice do I have?
Osmond's voice took on a haughty tone mimicking Tavi's as he addressed him, hand held high above his head.
Do fate's bidding or the world ends!
Osmond looked red-faced back to Tavi.
That's not a choice. It's extortion.
Infuriatingly, Tavi responded calmly.
Fate did not burden you with this, so it is not yours to pick up. The Fatesinger will choose another to bring her purpose to fruition. You can simply release Riken's soul to the Veil and be freed from fate's grasp.
The echo of Tavi continued.
Our meeting not only brought you to my time, but also me to yours. A time when Tavi is dead, and as his echo, I inherited all his memories. But there are 2 sets. In one, I return from Lyria Bay, having never received reincarnated Riken as an infant from my echo I left here. I destroy the parasite feeding on me and regain my strength. We eventually reconcile, and you have the father you deserved, albeit a bit delayed in his arrival.
Tavi paused.
The other is much as I assume you remember it.
When I was 14, you told me you were going to Lyria Bay. Is that after this? Is that when you are?
Osmond asked.
What is so important about Lyria Bay?
That is when I am, as you say. Lyria Bay is adjacent to a rift in our world. While not the same as this place, it is similar enough that if you choose to reincarnate Riken, I can take him directly from here to Tavi without alerting Toman to his resurrection. Between his reincarnation and the rift's energies, Riken will be shrouded from detection unless something leads Toman's gaze there.
Osmond voiced his internal conflict.
If I just walk away, all the pain, all the loneliness, all the rejection just goes away?
Osmond looked down at his forearms, running his fingers over the scars there, and longingly whispered,
All this just disappears?
This will all fade like a dream. 14-year-old you will wake in your bed to the news that your father is returning home, this time to stay.
The clearing fell silent. Osmond finally spoke.
It all disappears.
His voice was soft but carried through the silence.
But so do Talon and Wilfred.
Osmond reached out his hand to grab Anson's.
And finding you again.
Osmond then turned to Yanri.
And so do you.
He shared a long smile with Yanri, the person to whom he had just bared his whole soul.
When I arrived on the Isles, I very well might have chosen differently. But now, the choice is easy.
Osmond grabbed Yanri's hand and turned to Tavi while still hand in hand with Anson.
It might come with pain and heartbreak, but this is who I am. I'm not proud of my scars, but they're a part of all the things that are me. Erasing them would be the same as erasing myself. So, I'll do it.
Looking to Yanri and Anson for confirmation and getting a nod from each.
We'll do it. We'll reincarnate Riken.
Tavi's expression wore a rueful, self-effacing smile.
The only thing I ever did right was to trust you. But I couldn't even manage that until after I lost you.
How do we do this?
Osmond asked.
It is practically already done,
Tavi replied, leading them to the far side of the World Tree. There, a polished depression was carved into the seed pod that formed the tree's base. With the scale of the tree, it was near chest height and covered with runes.
The only part of the ritual remaining will come from you.
Tavi looked to the three of them.
All of you. Every reborn soul needs fire, the passion to reignite the soul's will to live, and earth, a foundation upon which to build its new life.
Tavi's words had taken on a ritualistic cadence. Tavi's echo looked to Osmond.
Place the soul crystal in the basin. Your father's power that flows into you from his sacrifice will guide your hand.
Osmond looked first to Yanri and then to Anson.
Are you okay with this? I know I spoke for us earlier, but you don't have to do this if you don't want to.
I abandoned you once, Osmond. I will not do it again. Whatever you need, I am here,
Anson replied.
Do you really have to ask?
Yanri said with a smile. Placing the shining crystal in the basin, Osmond smiled at the people who were his foundation and fire that would soon become Riken's.
Well then, let's fulfill destiny's ends, whatever they ultimately may be.
Feeling his father's influence and magic flowing through him and intermingling with his soul channeling, Osmond looked to his thumb and willed the nail to grow into one of the matriarch's talons. Saying the words he had once intoned in despair, he now invoked them with hope. He sliced his palm with the matriarch's talon and allowed the blood to form a blood blade in his hand. He looked to Yanri and couldn't help but smile as the needed words formed in his mind.
You are the fire, bright enough to reignite an extinguished soul.
Yanri held his hand over the soul crystal in the basin. The blood blade cut true and deep as Osmond drew it across Yanri's palm. As Yanri's blood hit the crystal, it burst into a vibrant, dancing flame. Osmond then looked to Anson, eyes brimming with tears as he said,
You are the stone, solid and true, the foundation upon which all this new life's troubles are weathered and triumphs celebrated.
As Anson's blood fell, it joined the fire, turning to molten rock, engulfing the shard and filling the basin. The surface of the lava filling the bowl expanded like rising dough into a dome as it turned gray and cooled. Everything was still for a breathless moment. Then, the stone crumbled into a fine cloud of glowing embers that drifted skyward. Within the basin, an infant lay where the soul crystal had once laid. A boy with storm cloud eyes, reborn to a new life, looking up at the man who had endured so much to ensure his return. Osmond reached down and lifted the tiny babe in his arms. Anson had already fetched a fresh cotton shirt from his pack, and when Osmond seemed unsure of how to proceed, Anson expertly swaddled the child in the soft fabric. Yanri stared at the infant in Osmond's arms in abject awe, having one of his rare moments of speechlessness.
Hello, Riken,
Osmond said in a gentle voice. A tiny hand reached up and grabbed Yanri's pinky finger. Yanri's face beamed brighter than the sun.
A new life will need a new name,
Tavi stated sagely.
Names can be powerful things, and the identity of this soul must remain hidden from powerful eyes. What will you have him named?
Osmond looked to Anson and Yanri for help, only to find them looking just as expectantly back at him. Osmond closed his eyes and sank into the new keel manifesting within him as he cherished the comforting weight of the baby in his arms. It was a tiny sensation, but it encompassed his entire world. A second heartbeat nestled deep in his chest, beating in perfect rhythm with his own. A dozen other keel that would typically overwhelm his senses blossomed across his body, but none could eclipse that tiny pulsing beat nestled against his heart.
Quentin,
Osmond said as he opened his eyes, meeting Anson and Yanri's.
Quentin,
Anson repeated approvingly with a nod.
Quentin,
Yanri choked out through tears.
It's perfect.
He looked to Anson and Osmond, placing his hand on his chest.
Do you feel it?
He patted his chest.
Here, like he is right here.
Osmond nodded.
I do,
Anson said as he looked at Osmond and put his arm around his shoulders.
But I have felt it before for another child I held in my arms.
Osmond smiled at the two men to whom he was now bound by blood and love through Quentin. He looked at Tavi and stated sorrowfully,
We have to let him go now, don't we?
I am afraid so. I need to deliver him to your father in my time,
Tavi replied.
Tavi has chosen someone wonderful there to raise him. Your father will remain only on the child's periphery to ensure that Quentin isn't found, leaving before he is old enough to remember him.
The echo of Tavi added forlornly,
Until, in 4 years' time, your father returns to Horizon's End and drives you away to Arnador.
Osmond only nodded and stepped forward toward the shimmering echo of his father. The apparition reached out, and as his hand made contact with Quentin, they both vanished. Yanri and Anson stepped forward, and the three huddled in an embrace, heads pressed together, overwhelmed by the moment. Whether they stood there for hours or days, Osmond could not tell. Their stasis was finally broken by a thick, mucus-filled and snuffled inhale from Yanri.
So,
Yanri wiped his nose on his sleeve, then asked Osmond,
you were 14 and now you're 36. That means Quentin is 22, right?
Osmond quickly confirmed the math in his head.
Yeah, that makes sense.
So let's go get him!
Yanri exclaimed. In usual fashion, Yanri had distilled any discussion of what now down to the most simple and direct course of action. Osmond looked to Anson for any objection and, seeing none, was about to endorse the plan when he remembered the cloak ray and Serena.
You're right, but remember what the Echo told us. Quentin must remain hidden. That cloak creature almost killed us, and I'm sure Serena sent it.
Osmond replied thoughtfully.
Shit! We are going to need a plan,
Yanri said dejectedly. Osmond countered,
But you are right about one thing. We need to get moving and out of this place.
As if on command, the fox reappeared at their feet. Anson knelt, his bag of jerky all but magically appearing in his hand.
Hello, little one. Can you lead us back to the portal?
Anson asked, as he offered the shimmering fox a piece of dried meat. The fox darted around in a circle and then zigzagged between their legs. She landed on Anson's shoulder with a single leap and grinned teasingly at Osmond with a mischievous twinkle in her eye. The entire forest shifted around them while they remained standing still. Trees whirled by, ferns bent out of their path. Gullies and grottos were bridged before them, only to reopen after they passed. With a shudder and a lurch, they stood back at the portal as if they had never left. The fox chirped with a burst of strange, barking laughter.
Okay, that was impressive. Nauseating, but impressive,
Osmond replied to the fox's smug grin she flashed at him from Anson's shoulder. Osmond noticed a quizzical look on Anson's face and that he didn't seem nearly as affected by the fox's strange form of transportation. Before he could inquire about it, Yanri began poking the cloak-ray's corpse with a stick, a grim reminder of the danger they still faced. Osmond went over to it and drew his dagger from his boot. It had returned to the shape of the iron dagger, with a shimmering coating of frost covering the blade. A theory began to form in Osmond's mind regarding the dagger, but there wasn't time to explore it now. He went to the creature's head and cut out the obsidian crystal, which was now dark with no sign of Serena's reflected eye. Careful not to touch it with his bare hand, Osmond cut a scrap of leather off the cuff of his pants, wrapped it around the talisman, and then placed it in his pack. He was unsure if it would be of any use, but anything that was once connected to Serena could potentially be of help. Osmond turned to the fox and said,
"We got off on the wrong foot, but you have been a great help. Thank you."
Looking to his companions and then back to the fox, he added,
"It's time for us to go."
The fox leaped onto Osmond's shoulder in the way of a reply. Osmond looked at it and said,
"I'm not sure you can come with us."
The fox remained resolute in its position, perched on Osmond's shoulder.
"Okay, I know better than to argue with you."
Osmond stepped through the portal with Yanri and Anson close behind. There was a lurch of the portal, and then the familiar burning flash of heat that accompanied using a returning stone attuned to a hearth. A moment of timelessness hit Osmond. The fox playfully danced before his eyes, its red tail burning like a torch. As it burned, the sparks it unleashed swirled around the fox until it disappeared. An onslaught of memories flooded Osmond's mind, his father's memories. He saw Tavi as a child playing on the cliffs of Horizon's End long before he laid the first foundations. Even at this young age, Osmond could see his father's affinity for the elements. He frolicked among the trees and waterfalls with a familiar fox conjured from the fires of the thermal forces deep below the location where his sanctuary and home would soon stand. Tavi's life unfurled before Osmond, his pain, his love, his journey, and his loss. All the things left unsaid. The vision ended with a hunched figure sitting before a canvas in the moonlight, painting a shattered stained glass window as he longed to share one more moment with his son. Osmond saw a pulse of pain ripple through his father, and his paintbrush drop to the floor. Osmond felt the familiar keel of shards of glass cutting across his palms as he watched the last friend reach into his father's chest and pull out Toman's parasite, crushing it in their palm. Tavi had carried it and all the pain it brought for decades to give his son this chance. The last friend then took Tavi's hand to escort him on his final journey. Osmond felt the fox's spirit settle into his mind alongside the matriarch, the prince, and the judge. He knew her name without a moment of thought. The trickster.